Climbing poles is all in a day's work for this teenager. He's still at school, but after hours, he works as a volunteer for Operation Khanyisa. Their mission is to reconnect electricity after Eskom has cut off the service. Khanyisa's reconnections are illegal and not always safe.
Yebo ukutshutshu Eskom estradini unokukhathela wonke umuntu estradini so1 like nje ngikhuluma so ezone 5 ePimville uEskom wabacimela bonke eblockini ngaze ngaya ke mina ngabalayitela bonke.
Sifiso Sithole lives in Soweto with his grandmother, brothers and sisters. He goes to a local school and hopes one day to qualify as an electrician. He decided on this career and to volunteer for Operation Khanyisa when his grandmother's electricity was cut off. She owed Eskom more than 10,000 rand. Sifiso says they couldn't stay in the dark, so he hooked them up again. It was his first reconnection job.
Isikhathi mangisithola after school. Mangiphume esikolweni yona ngama weekends like ake kuzuhlale unganawo gesi iparafini iphathisa ikhanda ikhandlela ngapha akwazi ukuthi ufunde uphansi kwekhandlela.
Today his services are needed in Deep Blue, Soweto. Sifiso is one of many Khanyisa volunteers who reconnect consumers every day. Eskom has designed a special key to open their boxes. But even without it, it takes Sifiso and his friends less than 2 minutes to get inside. Then they check out the distribution board and decide on the best way to cut, splice, and reconnect the wires. Kleinput Matamela and his son had their electricity cut off only this morning. They owe Eskom 1,500 rand.
And then 250. And 250 baba, and then 570, and then we service Pramas of the shade. Youngish. Much of my bank to Langdale, Bank Fusa with no citation, I called Escom, and then Bafuni.
It only takes one phone call to Operation Khanyisa to organize a reconnection.
Yeah.
You report your cutoff and the volunteers are sent out. They work all over Soweto, but being volunteers, they usually don't get taxi money, so they walk long distances. People like Kleinput depend on the volunteers. 101-year-old Kleinput says he's not as strong as he used to be. No one in his family has a job, so they rely on his pension. Kleinput is angry and feels cheated by Eskom and the government. He says he has always paid his electricity, rent and service bills, after which he has no more than 20 rand to feed his family. He's still waiting for the special pensioners' rate that Eskom has promised. But his patience has now run out. He's decided to reconnect himself.
Every month we are patala. Akunalanga champisi. Patala njalo. Ngani imali yakhe incane yomholo. Nathi sidla kuyo futhi kule mali leyo. Yabo? Into ezisubhlungu ukuthi Eskom yasicishela. Ayisicabangela ukuthi umuntu umdala. Manje namhlanje bathi bamcishele ngale mali esele. Yabo? Bamcishele ngale mali ibhili kababa le yokugcina yokubhadala. But sisebenzisa into ezithu phela istofo noma amanzi noma ukupheka lokho asingaphekanga siphekanga noma sisebenzisa amalamba.
It doesn't take long to get his electricity running again.
Manje kuze Operation Khanyisa kuzoba ngcono ukuthi bona manje mhlawumbe okuningi kuzoba kuphunguzekile kubaba.
Kleinput's not the only one who's been cut off today. No less than 20 houses in his street were disconnected this morning. To reconnect a whole block can take an entire day. Sifiso admits that working with electricity is dangerous. He has only the most basic equipment, a bread knife, pliers, and plastic bags for insulation. But he says if you know what you're doing and are extremely careful, there shouldn't be an accident.
Ugogo uhola 520. Kulo 520 lo fa uthi ugogo athenge ugesi, athenge icruise. Nabantwana ngapha bafuna ukukhera njengami dependele kugogo. So ngadecide ukuthi ngcono ngijoine i-Operation Khanyisa nginceda abogogo nabantu abangakwazi ukubhadala. Qala lesikhathi abhadala ugesi bengingakheri bengihlala ngendlala from ekuseni ngiphuma endlini ekuseni ngidlile. Ngebreak ayingidli, maybe ngiyoze ngidle after school or after school nakhona akukho ukudla.
Almost 30% of Soweto households are connected illegally. Escom says residents don't have to wait until they're cut off. There are many walk-in centers where customers can inquire about their arrears and negotiate payments.
Okay, let's say you say 291. I would say 291, you must pay that 291 in food, I guess.
Yeah, but last month, sorry, I got the terminal last month, you look up at the
Oh, no, so part it already.
300. Yeah.
Okay. So, about but then you must keep on paying as that full current thing.
Yeah.
When we visited the center, all the customers there had already been cut off and they didn't understand their accounts.
Cut-offs in electricity are part of the business. I mean, where you sell a service, and at the end of 30 days, you need to get paid for that service. And if the service is not paid for, then you discontinue that service. The percentage payment level in Soweto, on average, has been about 55% per annum. That is, we receive only 55% that we're supposed to receive in terms of what we've sold.
Residents responded to cut-offs by forming the Soweto Electricity Crisis Committee. They march in protest and mobilize residents. They accuse Escom of ignoring unemployment and poverty, and they're armed with whistles, which they blow to warn residents of Escom employees in the area.
Sithole ukuthi Escom, the more ubhadala is the more ahlala entanyeni yakho. Escom akakhethi ucimela obhadalayo ucimela ongabhadali.
Ngisho ogogo abame kancane ukuyobhadalwa Escom. Uyoza asibizwe Escom yena.
Nge-22 zikaJune sasise Escom eBramfontein e-16th floor. Silwa no-Escom saze sastaja i-sit-in. I-sit-in isho ukuthini? Sathi siyalala la asihambi u-Escom angakasiphenduli. Ngicela ukunitshela bantu bakithi ukuthi kuze kube namhlanje akakaphenduli u-Escom. U-government akakaphenduli. Sithi thina-ke singumuzi waseSoweto away nama-arrears ahlanyayo u-Escom makasuse zonke ikoloto. Sifuna i-flat rate ye-50 rand. Sifuna ogogo babe ne-special rate.
Basifundisile nayo imbayimbayi. Insimbi sephendulwa ngensimbi. Izolo bekhala ipempe ebusuku elokishini saphuma. Bagandile abaningi. Sisho ukuthi ipempe saseyiwephoni yethu.
Siclaima okwethu what is rightfully ours from Escom. Sithi thina Escom asikukolodi uyasikolota.
Apha lesizoboycotha namhlanje. Sithi phansi ngogesi. Phansi ngerendi. Angabonakala umuntu ayalapha efasteleni. Ayobhadala.
Amanda. 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 Yivoti lethu. Amanda. Yivoti lethu.
Khanyisa is not far from Soweto. Here the fight for power has led to more dramatic conflict. While we were filming, 4 men from Khanyisa hostel died in a violent dispute over access to cables. And homeowners say they're forced by hostel dwellers to share their electricity cables.
There is a box down there, and the people of the hostel are digging down the box and connecting the wire from the box to the hostel. So sometimes the houses here, all this area, it comes off because of that people of the hostel when they're taking our electricity. Now and then electricity comes off, then we phone in people of Escom. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't come. We stay about 2-3 days without electricity. I've tried to speak to the guys of the hostel, especially the indunas.
Uma bezoripota noma kimi noma kumfowethu lo naye uyafa lo muntu ngoba hlala nabe emnyameni nje la uzothi mina ngiyasebenza ne yena akasebenzi ubuza ukuthi mina uthi akadliphi ngoba ngiyasebenza ngithi nje kungongakho abantu esengathi bayafoster ukuthi belanda ugesi lapho ongafanele khona bewulethe ngaphakathi yini inhlupheko hayi ukuthi bazithanda bona benzwa inhlupheko ukuthi benze njalo.
We've got a kid down there. There were wires running from that box to the hostel. There were kids, sometimes the kids that were playing there. When they play, one of them and then plays with that wires and then they shock her and then she's dead.
Okwenza ukuthi abantu kuze kwesengathi bayabulalana babangilambele i1 manje ke nami ngiyawufuna nobani uyawufuna ese wena uma usidonsele mina sengizoconnecta la entanjeni yakho ukuthi ngitshontshe khona ilapho esengizofaka khona ke lokho yikho ke abantu esengathi bayafa nje babulawa into efana naye leyo.
In month end, when they sent in the bills, our bills is so high. Some of our people, they don't work in. Some of them are pensioners. So when they see people is not paying, they just come in during the day and come to cut off.
Bona sibatshenile ukuthi no madoda sesidala sikhuluma nalabo abantu abafuna ukuzwa nina yenzani ukuthi nifonele amapolisa azosolve le problem yalapha otherwise Eskom ngoba lento ayidukile uyabona umuntu uma iconnect intambo ihamba straight ingene eroomini yakhe ngiyesethi ke baba nguwo connect ngale lokushini uyithathe imvume yalapha emthathe lokhuza ne-fridge yakhe lokho bomgcina emthethweni.
We've been trying to fight to them about that so they mustn't cut off. Up to so far we are still fighting for them.
Electricity is not a tangible commodity, but it still costs a lot of money to produce. For instance, it will cost Eskom over 12 billion rand to build this power plant today. But consumers say Eskom is just after more money. They say prices are too high, arrears cripple them, and billing is unreliable. That's why they're reconnecting, even if it's illegal. Consumers are also confused about government's promise of free electricity. Government says it will guarantee free basic electricity of 50 kilowatts per month by 2003. But a four-roomed house like most in Soweto require nearly 600 kilowatts per month. Less than 10% of electricity will be free.
There are a number of issues that affect payment. I think one, socio-economic conditions, obviously, in areas like Soweto, poverty, and the issue of free electricity and the way the one government wants to go with it, I think is motivated by the fact that there are clearly socio-economic issues. But there are also other issues. The lotto, for instance, takes about, I think, 2 billion per annum. Now, our total domestic market is around 2 billion. The cell phones takes about 16 billion per annum. The casinos takes about 5 billion, 5 to 6 billion. So when you add all of those, it's about 24 billion industry around the lotto, the casinos, and the cell phones. Now, what is Eskom's total revenue? Is about 24 billion as well. So they compete for the same disposable income that we're looking at. So those things impact on what is available to pay for electricity, to pay for other services.
6:30 p.m., the Soweto Electricity Crisis Committee are holding yet another community meeting. Tonight, they're in Orlando West. At every meeting, boys and girls are recruited to join Khanyisa. They get training from out-of-work electricians, even former Eskom employees. The recruits get lists of those who've recently been cut off. Those homes are where they'll start. But they do not only spend their time on illegal connections, they also help to chase Eskom employees out of the neighborhood. The next morning in Orlando West, Operation Khanyisa is on its way to help those who wrote their names on the list at last night's meeting.
Yebo bantwana bami.
Kushuthi ma ufonile office 90 ma.
Yeah.
Yebo ma. Ma besicela ukuthi usitshengise ibox la.
All right.
Eunice Swane is a pensioner. She's been without power for months now. She says she's already used to the discomfort. But after dark, she gets scared. She lives on an exposed corner, and she's afraid she might become a target for criminals.
Oh, I'm so happy.
She says it's so dark, neither she nor her neighbors will see the criminals until they're right inside the house.
Shuthi bese silethiwa shi sikubonisa ukuthi sekuyakhanya nasendle.
Oh, sengiyola ubuthongo nami Nkosi yami yebo. Ankulunkulu ngiyabonga.
Kuyakhanya ma.
Hawu. So umuntu uzokwazi nokupheka netesi ngoliphuza ekuseni. Kunginokuphuza amanzi. Awu ayikhanya ngiyabonga ngempela abantwana bami uNkulunkulu anibusise. Nali iphepha ngadala abangibhalela abangikhathela.
Eskom mama kafika ne. Sicela umqoshe.
Ngithenga impempe kanje mama.
Ngoyithenga impela ipempe. Ngoyithenga impela. Yes.
Eskom says reconnecting is not only unsafe, but it's a crime.
This space was for the meters, ne? But when this guy doesn't pay his electricity, what customer service will do is they will do the audits and they'll every follow-up, and then they will remove the meter and remove the cables from this and the circuit breakers because they've terminated the customer on their side. But then this guy will come and connect himself illegally. When he does that, he affects the whole network and the safety of his kids and the safety of all the guys within, like that stay within this house. They develop a fault within the house. This doesn't trip here because there's no circuit breaker to isolate the house. It goes and trips onto our pillar boxes, or it trips onto our mini substations. When it trips the mini substation, it means the whole area is off because this hasn't been properly done.
The amount of debt owed by Soweto residents alone is about 900 million. We have an obligation to supply customers with electricity. They have also an obligation to pay for that service.
My employees got Eskom. Masithi nje sizowashaya ne. Sizowashayela because babazongena ejartini lakho. Bangena bayadelela. Sometimes kuthiwa ukuthi noma ukhona bayangena nje. Ubona umuntu kuthiwa ukuthi ibox lakho lingale emva kwama room. Umbona sikatshompele emva kwama room. Awusazi ukuthi isigebengu or umuntu ka Eskom. That's why sithi sizobashaya. Because bazinikeza umthetho ezandleni zabo ukuthi bangene emajartini ethu.
Tlantla Madinane is an Eskom field meter reader. If residents are at home, he gives them their accounts on the spot. It's Eskom's new way of trying to solve inconsistent billing and metering. But Tlantla has started dreading the whistle that makes him a target. He's been attacked before.
Yeah, like abantu does once nje uthi nje Eskom nje into abayicabangayo ukuthi bazongikhathela. Wabona? So in some houses imoto angena abantu bakhona imoto angena nje saba ready nje ebusweni. Siwazimisela nje ukuzokuhlafuna nje. Yabona abanye bakhiya amagate, abanye nje makubona useza uvulela indla yakhe, imoto angena ejartini sohlangana nepova yakhe nayo imali seyagijimisa. Aba nali bill lakho. Ngiyabonga.
Sashaya ku 2000. Impatala la manje.
No, like imali umele ibhadale nayo ba i-current account yakho ye-146 ne ya negotiated le niyo umele ibhadale.
Negotiated usho ukuthini?
No, ile mali le
23 rand 15.
yebo.
If I can pay this, yeah, it's all right.
Plus you pay this 146.
Only balance is this.
You
pay only 169.
Yeah, for this one the current. Yeah. Thanks. Like mangenze around nje yazi angidlaleli ngala ngisebenza ngakhona. You don't know awuna security, uhamba uyi-1 efieldini. Awukho safe. Yabona, awukho safe. My job description, thatha ama readings, nothing more. I'm not going to cut anyone's electricity off. I'm not going to do nothing. Yabona. Each and every day after masiphuma efieldini, we normally tell us each other with how was your day and stuff. Yabona. Every day complaining kumele ibe khona. Either ugijimiswe inja or it's either ugijimiswa abantu, it's just ama complaints imela abakhona on a daily basis ngoba yazi ukusebenza ngoba ngabantu ne, it's not easy.
Consumers have little confidence in Eskom. They want government to take action. But government is not ignoring the problem. They say if a household earns less than 1,000 a month, it will get a discount of up to 86 rands on municipal service charges. Soweto residents are not convinced. They want a 50 rand flat rate for electricity. Many residents we met were paying part of their bills every month. But with arrears of up to 30, sometimes 50,000 rand, they're unable to settle the full amount. Eskom says they're looking for solutions. They've designed intelligence metering. This remote control system allows them to disconnect users without sending in workers. It operates like a prepaid cell phone. When units run out, the electricity cuts off. This system is expensive, and it's not quite clear how it will solve the problem. In the meantime, the marchers want to disconnect this councillor's electricity so he too can feel what it's like to be cut off. From next year, the National Electricity Regulator has approved a 6.2% price hike, something that could add fuel to the fire. And angry residents continue paying their bills.